All righty. Obviously, border violence is a big issue around here with the drug wars going on. The headline from the local paper today, crackdown snares 12 more cops down Tijuana. The cops are crooked. The drug dealers are battling with each other. It is just a nightmare down in Mexico. And today there's a committee hearing in Washington that might be addressing some of those issues for us here in San Diego. And Congressman Brian Bilbray is on the phone right now talking about what's going to happen with this committee and possibly with border security. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning, Dan.
All right, first of all, let's talk about the hearing that is going to happen today, and it has to do with Homeland Security and using Homeland Security, basically, to secure up the borders. What are you guys talking about specifically?
Basically, finally addressing the issue that the massive amounts of violence that's going on just south of our border that's starting to overflow into the southern part of our county, but especially into El Paso. But really trying to raise the awareness that Washington should not have the illusion that the war is being fought far away in the Middle East, that there's a war going on in our own backyard, and we've got to make sure that we win it.
Well, I think that the statistic is more people were killed in Tijuana last year than died in the war in Iraq, or at least Americans. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of people are being gunned down in the streets. Little kids are getting caught in the crossfire. It's just absolutely crazy down there. And Juarez right now is a military town. The Mexican military has absolutely taken over.
They have taken over, and Dan and Sandra, what's interesting is all this talk about worrying about having troops at our border because we wanted to be politically correct. We're long past that. This thing is so out of control that at least Mexico has recognized their urgency, and there has been over 6,000 people killed last year, and we're on the glide slope right now of doubling that number this year.
All right. Now, specifically, what is it that you want? And I know we've talked about troops and Homeland Security getting involved, but there's also the issue of that fence that they're still talking about building.
Well, the fence is actually part of a tool that we work over there. You saw that we finally are completing the Smuggler's Gulch part of our section of that.
Yeah.
But we're really looking at this Merida initiative where we give surplus military equipment, and we give training, no cash, but we give the training to the Mexican army so they can fight the war against the cartel the same way we helped Colombia win the war against the cartels there. And, you know, if we're going to spend our resources all over the world, thousands of miles away to defend other neighborhoods, doggone it, we ought to be defending our own, and much better to fight this war on Mexican soil rather than wait for it to get into San Diego any deeper.
Congressman, with all the things that are going on in the economy today and everybody's preoccupied with the money issues, how big of a priority is this right now in terms of other members of Congress? I know it's a big issue for you. You live it every day, but these other guys are far, far away from this stuff.
Well, it isn't a high priority, and that's why I'm responsible for those of us that are on the front line to know what's going on. The San Diegans, the Texans are really trying to wake up the rest of the country. The fact that this is not something we can ignore, and we've got to address it. And this hearing today is the beginning of the awakening of Washington, D.C., that we don't have to go halfway around the world to find battles being fought. We can look in our own backyard, and that Washington has to address this issue. That's why I wrote the letter to the new president saying, while you're winding down Iraq, while you're focusing on Afghanistan, you can't ignore our own backyard. The border is out of control, and we've got an obligation to defend our neighborhoods first and foremost.
Does he seem to be responsive to that?
Well, it seems like this hearing is responding from the House Representatives' point of view. We haven't seen the State Department address this issue. I just met with the Mexican ambassador to try to get some of these senators to understand that. We've got a senator from Vermont right now who's basically blocking the transport of equipment over to help the Mexicans fight this battle. And, you know, Vermont thinks they're safe, but the fact is that's where we've got to sort of get in your face, wake them up, and not allow them to hide from the reality on this issue. And Leahy has got to wake up to the fact that it's much better to have the Mexicans win this battle before it gets on U.S. soil.
Well, you know, he is far removed from this issue and, you know, has his own things, I guess, that his priorities are. But, yeah, they definitely have to wake up on this. Hey, before I let you go, can I talk very quickly about this spending plan that's being batted around the Senate right now? I know the House has already approved it. And now the Senate is talking about all these pork projects and things like that. Now, obviously, there is a lot of swine in this bill because, you know, we've looked at it. But is there any of that money coming to the San Diego area? And will any of that money actually help us create any jobs here?
Well, I think there's some, yeah. The problem is that when you've got to dig through all the pork fat to try to get to the substance, look, the American people were promised a change in the way Washington operates. And the old excuse is, well, this is the way things always have been done in this town, just doesn't wash anymore. And I think that we just got to understand the public threw the Republicans out because they didn't feel they were doing enough to stop this kind of actions. And now you're finding the Democrats fall into the same trap. And I think the biggest issue is people have got to be willing to stand up and say no until this type of stuff stops. And I think this is, again, what people are upset with Washington and the way things are going, that no matter who's in there, they just seem to be in the same bad habits. And I think there's going to be hell to be paid if we don't change our ways.
Yeah, I think we're all with you on that one. Hey, by the way, while we were talking to you, the stock market is going up about 250 points, so that's good news.
Yeah, it's about time. My God, we've been watching it slip back and forth and actually going down dramatically this year. So hopefully we'll see some kind of change. I mean, we're all looking for the bottom and hoping to see it start recovering. And maybe, let's just keep our fingers crossed, maybe this will be the recovery we get into. We just got to make sure that we understand that, look, Dan, we got into this problem with individuals taking on more debt than they can afford, and Washington has to wake up that you're not going to get out of it by the government making the same mistake.
Amen. Thanks for talking to us this morning, Congressman Brian Bilbray from Washington. We'll talk to you when you get back.
Absolutely, Dan, and thanks a lot, Sandra.
You got it.